Hi there. I have the privilege of having Tarek Ziadé here with me. How are you doing, Tarek?
I'm doing fine, Marcelo. Thanks.
No,
What
thank
about
you.
you?
So it's
What
a
about
it's a
you?
sun. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you do.
Oh, I'm okay. It's
Okay.
still a little bit early here in Vancouver. It's 9:12 in the morning. So, but it's for you. It's already over 6 p.m. in France, right? So, thank
Yeah.
you and merci for joining me on this Sunday. So, Sunday evening for you. So, thank you for taking some time of your evening here to speak with me. And it's Tarek. That was what do you do today? What's your role today?
I work at Mozilla. Mozilla is the company behind Firefox, and they have offices in Canada, in the States, and there is also an office in Paris. But I work remotely from Burgundy. I live in the countryside. And I work in the AI team in Firefox. We're trying to add AI features in the browser.
It's fantastic. So before we talk about Firefox AI and a few other projects you have worked through your career, let's go back in time and let me ask you, how did technology and how did computers come into your life?
So my mother was like a very heavy. She was very heavy into computer stuff. Like she
Hmm.
was one of the early adopters of programming and whatnot. We had at home one of the first Sharp computer laptop that was back in the late 80s, and it was like a unique device where you could have like a it was a printer that could do like amazing stuff. So she was always, every time I had a birthday, she was making programs where we kids could enter some values into the Sharp computer to draw some amazing fractals and stuff like that in that computer. And I really loved that. I was like intrigued by this stuff. And later on, when I was kid, I started to do some programming with the turtle. I don't know if this is something you know about, or people in Canada or Brazil know about, but this was very popular in France. It was
Logo.
yeah, a low. But it was a physical version. So you had
Hmm.
this turtle where you put some cards in it to
Oh, I
program,
see.
and you would say step forward 10, turn around 10 degrees, and you would put all those cards, and every time you would put a card you would push a button, and then when you were finished you would push another button, and you had the whole program doing that stuff. And that turtle had also a pen, so they had those big sheet of paper on the ground, and you could like draw some stuff on the ground with that turtle. And for me, it was like mind blowing. It was great. So this is how I got started into to get interested into computer science.
It's fantastic. And I think I saw that in Brazil. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember something similar to this. And like I mentioned, there was a logo, right? And there was a programming, very simple programming language that you had a little turtle and you could define, but you had to have a computer. Why you describe it's more like a device. You just put cards and it's a little bit of a programming. It's kind of it's really fascinating how people start with programming and what they get exposure to, right? And how was elementary school and how was high school for you? Did you have any exposure to computers or programming at high school or not
Not
at all?
Not really, because I think when I was in high school, so I'm 40 years old, so I was in high
Mhm.
school quite a long time ago, and back then we didn't really have any computer science in high school. Now these days they have that. They do stuff around like programming, but back then they didn't have that. So I didn't get exposed to any of this before I went to the university. So it was just the way I was learning and enjoying programming was through a magazine I was buying, that where you could program your own games using BASIC. So I had a Thomson TO8D, which was one of the first French computer with a disk player, and we were coping over the games that were printed into the magazine. It was like very very simple games with very simple graphics, and we would spend days to type back like five or 10 pages of the magazine where we had the program until we had like a bug because they had a typo in there, and it was a nightmare. But eventually, when it was working, it was like a gift. Like we were so happy with some of our friends because we built a game. Like so, yeah. But yeah, nothing at school for us until the university.
And how did you go about choosing your university and the course that you took?
Well, so for me, it was clear that I wanted to do software. This
Mhm.
was something I was very attracted to. And in Dijon, the biggest city in, well, I used to live in Dijon. So when I was a kid, in my city, we have a great technological university where I went for a couple of years to learn programming, and we had like very good teachers. Like the golden study in France back then was engineering school, but I didn't do that. I did a short stuff. That's 2 years. But it turns out that it was a very very good school for learning programming. We had like teachers that were like the top teachers in the country
Wow.
for learning programming. And we learned with ADA, which was
Mhm.
the trend back then in France. That was in 95, 94, 95. And ADA was the trendy language back then in France. It's a programming language that requires you to define everything, like all the way down to the operators, and that's used it's still used, I think, in space programming for like shuttles and stuff like that, for embedded devices.
I think I use ADA on aviation, right? So a lot of aviation projects they still use ADA for that.
Yeah.
Cool. And how was your path to get from university to your first job? How was how that first job come to you, or how did you come to the first job?
Yeah, so before I went to the university, I was a mediocre student. I didn't have good grade. I barely had my high school like diploma. I was not really good, just because I was like, I guess, bored and not a good student. But when I went to the university, I was really good because I had a passion for programming. So I was always staying late at the university to learn and whatnot. And we had it was like our generation, it was the golden generation to find jobs for
Mhm.
many reasons. One of the reasons was that it was a little bit before the year 2K bug. Like everyone was freaking out because they were worried about everything
Yep.
crashing because of the year 2000.
Mhm.
And my school had extra courses for us to learn COBOL programming, and like almost everyone in my school with this in their CV, like it was super easy to get hired, and I got hired to Thomson, a company that makes TVs in nearby Dijon. Like it's
Yep.
a worldwide company, and so I got enrolled in a contractor role for 6 months there to build a vision artificial intelligent program. And it was super interesting. Like back then when you didn't have flat TVs, when you turned off your tube TV, you had like this white spot in the middle,
Yep.
reducing. And sometimes it was doing some zigzags, and we called that the ghost effect. and it didn't make the TV less of worse quality. It was the same quality, but people freaked out. So my job was to create an artificial a program that would take pictures when we shut down the TV using a very fast speed camera, and then analyze how this white spot would go in the middle, and if it was zigzagging, we would there were something that would take that TV and put it in a second part of the factory, and they would remove the Thomson label, and it was sold half the price because of that. So that was my first job.
It was like a quality control kind of a software.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was fun.
Fascinating. Fascinating. And how did your professional life evolve from that first job?
So I got an offer for a permanent position there, but it was something where I would not evolve a lot, and I found a much more interesting job in the city, working for a company that built software for supermarkets. So all this stuff about accounts and stuff like that. So I went there, and this is where I started to code into Delphi, which is Pascal, but with a MVC, like a visual programming environment, like what you have with Borland C++. It was Borland Delphi. It was very popular back then, and yeah, that's when I got involved in open source, because some of the so we were working. It was like I didn't know anything about open source then, but we had some bugs with some components we bought, and we had to go through a lot of pain to get the company fix the bug. We had to pay some stuff, etc. And then I found those components that were called indie components that were open source, and I could go there inside and read the code and find the bugs and fix. And then I found a forum about them, and I started to interact with the community, and I was like, wow, that's mind-blowing. And this is how I came to open source.
How did Python come into your life?
Because when I started to get interested into open source, and I started to poke around, eventually I discovered Zope. So Zope is a environment to do web apps using Python, and I loved it. I was like pretty mind blown about what you could do with the ZODB, with everything around this stack. And I wanted to learn it. I wanted to understand everything about it, and this is how I came into Python. So I created a website with a forum. And I wanted to create a forum where people could ask, a French forum, where people could ask questions about Zope and then Python. And for months, every time someone would ask a question, I would study the question to find the answer, because I wanted to learn. And for me, the best way to learn was to answer to the question people are asking about the technology. So for a month, I was the only person answering to all the questions into that forum. That made me learn Zope, Python, and that created a community. We were like starting to grow and grow, and then someday I told them, well, let's create a foundation. Let's create something. So we created the French Python user group that. We met in Paris. We had a beer. We were like 10 of us that we met through the forum, and we founded the Python user group that still exists now. And I was president for 10 years, and after I did some other stuff, but this is how I got involved a lot into the community.
That's incredible, right? And it's we're talking before I started to record. We're talking about the things that happen in people's lives, and and looking back, and you got involved with open source, and you got involved with Python, and look back and think about how those moments, and think about those moments and the impact that they had in your career, right? So you wrote books about Python,
Yes.
you work with Python in a number of different projects, you created a number of applications. It's just incredible how something happens and that opens a completely new path in your life, right? So it's really, really fascinating. So I think you work for the company where you're using Zope was Nuxeo, right? Did I say correct?
Yes. So I was just one thing about what we said about opening new things. I think it's always the same mechanism for me. I want to learn something, and to learn it, I want to learn it to others. And this is how I get always new opportunities. Anyways, so yeah, so I got contacted by Nuxeo because it was one of the few open source company working on Zope and Python in the world. Like back then, there were a lot of independent people. There were a lot of like contractors or huge companies that had that side Zope project. But Nuxeo was one of the few that were dedicated to that, like with a full team of people. So so I got hired by them, and I started to work on like CPS, which is like Plone, but a different flavor, I guess.
That's incredible. So and life evolved. You worked as a CTO in a couple of opportunities, right? So you worked as a tech lead, and you eventually went to work for Mozilla. And you're there with Mozilla for over 10 years. Can you describe how did life take you from Nuxeo and all the way to Mozilla?
Well, so I gravitated around the Python community, and I started to get involved into Python itself. I work on Python dev to try to help around packaging, which was a nightmare. But anyways, it was a
sorry, I should have laughed. Sorry.
No, I mean, not being part of that Python dev community. The nightmare was trying to fix packaging because it was very complex. And it was a problem much bigger than me. So, anyways, but then through this and my books, I started to get a little bit known in the community. And back then, in 2009, I think, Mozilla had started to have server-side features for the browser. And some websites, and everything was in PHP, and they wanted to move from PHP to Python. So they were looking for a Python expert, and they were a little bit nervous about hiring me because I was in Europe, and I was the only guy there back then to do this. But they hired me eventually. I flew there, and it's funny because you remember the volcano in Iceland that blocked all the traffic? That blocked me to go to California for my interview for Mozilla.
Wow.
For like it blocked it for a few months, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna miss my dream job. And like it took a few months to be able to get there. I flew there for one day. I was completely jet lagged. I had like 7 interviews in the same day, flew back.
Wow.
I didn't know if I was hired, but they were nervous about hiring me, but eventually they did. And I had meetings, the first 2 years, I had meetings at like 3 a.m. in the morning, and no one would know in the team, like in the teams that had meeting with them. I didn't tell them. I didn't want to be that guy saying, oh yeah, we should have a Europe-friendly meeting. That changed now, but back then, I was so happy to have my dream job. I was just doing those 3 a.m. meetings to just blend in and work for Mozilla. So yeah, and I worked on rewriting a bunch of PHP stuff into Python stuff. So, for example, Firefox sync, the stuff that syncs your
profile.
your tabs across devices. So that was one of my first big projects that I wrote back into Python.
That's fantastic. And by the way, thank you for doing that, because that's a incredibly useful feature in Firefox. So it's a video.
Thank you. And it's funny because that feature, like we were like ahead of Chrome when we built it, because we were the only one doing encryption, client-side encryption. They added it, but like Mozilla cares about privacy and stuff like that. And back then, everything we did, like everything was in the open, and you could like join any meeting as a contributor. Because we wanted to make sure that anyone could contribute to any project, including the project the team within Mozilla would work on.
It's fantastic. And tell me, so you got to Mozilla, and you're there for like 10 years on your first, almost 11 years. That's what I'm seeing on LinkedIn here. So how was it the evaluation? Sorry, what I'm saying. How was the evolution from the day you got there and your first day? Eventually you became a senior staff application engineer for Mozilla, right? So how does somebody grow within Mozilla to get to the level of being a senior staff engineer?
Right. So I didn't get hired at the right level. That's one thing, because my first manager, who was a little bit nervous about hiring a French guy, he hired me at the lowest thing possible. But then this was part of why I grew the first step like that. And after, I guess I did a lot of things where I was passionate about it. So that helps a lot. I mean, when you are an individual contributor, if you're like, I don't know, if I work on the projects until this day, I'm obsessed by the project. So that makes good employees, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why I grew into that, and the fact that I was also part of the community and the mission, the Mozilla mission, like is very aligned with my own ethics. So yeah, I guess.
It's incredible how passion moves people forward, right? So you really enjoy doing something and really moves you forward and helps you learn and helps you evolve in life. So eventually you went from Mozilla to Elastic, correct?
Yes. So
how did Elastic come into your life?
So passion can also burn you. So you have to be careful about that. For me, it was a learning curve to make sure that I would still have my family life, that I would not put everything in work, to not burn out. So passion is good. It's what makes you wake up in the morning, but you have to be careful.
Of course.
Because, yeah. So after 11 years, that's when Mozilla started to get into trouble because we were losing a lot of market shares. And they laid off 25% of the organization, and that was depressing, both for people that left and people that stayed. I didn't get laid off, but for some time, a few months, things were a little bit different because like people were a little bit depressed, and you didn't know which project was going to continue, what was going to happen. So it changed a little bit the vibe. And the other thing is, for a long time, I wanted to move to Canada. I wanted to live in Canada with my family. It was like a life goal, because when I was a kid, I went to the States for a year, and I wanted my kids to have that. And we wanted, as a family, to go to work for in another country, and it couldn't happen anymore with Mozilla. Like the first year at Mozilla, it was a no-brainer for them to say, well, I mean, if you want to move to the States or Canada, we can help you. We can help with the visa process. But at that time, it was not possible anymore because it was Mozilla was in trouble and they didn't have a they were not doing what they did in the early days. And this is why I moved to Elastic, because Elastic had in its program the ability to be relocated to one of the 18 locations they have, and they had Canada. And I told them, well, if I can move to Canada for a year, I'd love to work for you guys. And they were like, well, come work for a year. If it works out, you can go. So I did that.
That's fantastic. So you moved to Canada eventually, right? So you came to
Yes.
work in British Columbia. You lived in Victoria, like you're telling me, right?
Yes.
How was the Canadian experience for you?
Well, it was great, except the lack of cheese and wine, and the food was not fantastic. I think that was one of the reasons we came back. So, but other than that, it's my second favorite place in the world. People are super nice. There's a super vibe. Victoria is so nice, and we have a little bit less rain than Vancouver, so that's good. And yeah, I guess the biggest difference with me working in France is that in France, when I work with people from the States or even Brazil or the West Coast, it's always late meetings for me. When I was in Victoria, it was the other way around. Sometimes I had 6 a.m. meetings with Europe, and then in the afternoon, I was alone. Nothing happened. And I'm not a morning person. So I think at the end of the year, we could have stayed more. We could have, it was easy for me to become a citizen eventually. But the lack of good cheese, the crazy price for housing, it's crazy. If I want to get a house in Victoria, I have to sell 10 houses like mine in Burgundy. That and the fact that the kids were eventually want to go to university, we said, well, and I have a house here in France. We said, well, we're going to go back in France, and we'll see later when we get older if we want to go back to Canada. But it's I feel a little bit Canadian, so for me, it's my second home.
Je suis Canadien.
Eh ben, voilà.
So, but the wines are not that bad over here, right? So we have Okanagan and wine. So BC is British Columbia. It's pretty good from a wine perspective. Right? I realize France has major wines, but we're not that bad.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, Marcelo. But Luciano, Luciano.
Amaro.
Yeah, he came at my place and he tried some wine, so we should ask him the question. But I think we have I'm gonna be doing my French guy here, but I think we have the best wine in my area.
I'll have to do an assessment. I'll come visit you and I'll try some wine so I can do a proper assessment.
I think it's a great idea. We should do that, definitely.
Absolutely, looking forward to it. So, but yeah, so you spent some time in Canada. You went to Victoria, a beautiful city. You saw the crazy house prices that we have over here. So welcome to. We say BC means bring cash.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's pretty pricey house wise. But so you went back to France, and I think you work for, I'm not sure if I'm saying the company, is it Nuclea or is it Nuclea?
Oh, yeah, Nuclea. Yes. Yeah. So Nuclea is a super nice startup made by people that were from the Plone community. And they came up with a pretty cool system that's doing it's a vector search database. And when all the craziness around LLMs came around, they added RAG and stuff like that. So I went to work there for a few months to help around the vector search database. So it was very low level stuff in Rust. So that was very interesting. But I didn't stay because I got pinged by Mozilla. Because they wanted to build a team to do AI in Firefox. And I realized that I wanted to be part of that thing where we're going to have a massive impact for users out there. Like Nuclea is more enterprise stuff, So I was more interested into having an impact for the community of Firefox user. So that's how I came back to Mozilla. And for me, it was amazing that I left them and that I came back. It felt like I was so humbled, like, to be able to do a second round there. They have a term for this. They call us boomerangs.
Boomerang, okay. So, but now you're working with Mozilla, and like you said, you're doing AI work with to improve Firefox, or add some functionality to Firefox. What can you tell us about that? That's not a secret.
Oh, so when I came back, we explored two paths. The first one was to add the classical chatbot on the side, so you can interact with the page like when you are in ChatGPT, similar stuff. And the second part, for me, which was way more interesting, it was to be able to do stuff locally without calling an LLM.
Yep.
So I went so in Firefox you have something called PDF.js, which is the PDF reader. And I don't know if a lot of people know that, but you can add images to PDF. So when you're there, you can insert an image. Why you would do that? I don't think there are a lot of use cases. One of them is adding your signature, but I think that's going to get replaced by something where you can sign directly. But anyways, and for me, it was a good way to get started into AI. What I did is I added a feature that would describe an image with a small sentence. So to help visually impaired people, for example, well, actually, visually impaired people wouldn't go into a PDF, add an image to get it described. But for me, it was just a first surface to try out this feature, to build a stack that's able to do this, and eventually extend it to the whole browser. So I didn't know much about AI, modern AI. I went into all the process of learning how to fine-tune a model, how to fix biases to make sure that we wouldn't say bad things about images. And we eventually landed the feature, and it worked pretty well. It's a very small model. It works within your browser, so you don't call a server side, and it's a fraction of the size of what you like a large LLM like a ChatGPT or other players. But it's laser focused. It's trained just for that, for recognizing objects in images and then providing some kind of caption for that image.
Do you think there's a future? Because right now we really have like really large language models that's it's not really feasible to have those models in your little computer here, right? So do you think that the future will be like having more smaller models, really specialized models, and helping some kind of a agentic kind of functionality?
Well, so there are a lot of features that are actually powered by small models in many of the devices. You already have that on your Pocket in Android or Apple. And those small models are getting bigger by the day. Like, for example, now on the iPhone, you have Apple Intelligence, which is a 3 billion model that's able to do, it's using LoRa adapters, and it's able to do decent summarizations and stuff like that. On Android devices, you have Gemini that's able to do some interesting stuff too. And I really like the approach Apple has around AI on phones. They try to do everything on the phone, and if it gets too complex, they send it into what they call private cloud compute, so to run on larger models. And I think this is the future, this hybrid approach. And I think the more like things are going to get more and more powerful in your pocket and on your laptop. Models will get bigger, and will do more and more stuff where you're not required to call the very large model. And for privacy, it's great. I mean,
But if you do call the large model outside, it will be some sort of a private approach like Apple's doing with their model, right?
yes. So NVIDIA and other players, they're building a hardware level technology now to try to improve privacy. They have something called confidential compute, which creates some kind of enclave around the GPU. And when you interact with the GPU, you do a key exchange as a user. And when you send your query, no one but you and the GPU can see the data. And this greatly improves privacy.
So I know you're heavily into Python, but have you been experimenting with other languages as well, Rust or other programming languages? I know Mozilla has some projects in Rust as well. And
Yep.
How is that going for you? What can you tell us about those?
So I'm not a huge fan of Rust. Like, I mean, a lot of people love Rust. I don't. I find it very verbose. It's powerful, it's secure, it's modern, it's everything, but I don't like it. I mean, but I'm not like, I mean, I don't care. I want a best language for the job. So for Firefox is built in Gecko with Gecko, which is a C++ app, and then we have a layer on the top of it with which is JavaScript, and some part of the browser is now in Rust. So they like some components are rebuilt in Rust. For example, everything that powers Web GPU is its own project that eventually gets vendored inside Firefox, and I think it's a great approach. And I like working in this environment. I think like there are great use cases for C++, for JavaScript, and we have like an amazing compiler that's doing just-in-time, SpiderMonkey and IronMonkey, that makes JavaScript really powerful. But for everything else, it's Python, and like I think Python won for everything around doing AI. Before you integrate AI into an app, so training models and everything we do in the CI, how we deploy everything is in Python.
That's fantastic. And we're talking about AI, and you're implementing AI functionality in Firefox, right? I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the impact that AI is having on you as a software engineer and the work that you do. And how do you think that AI is going to evolve, and where do you see AI helping us more?
Yeah, it's a game changer for developers, and it's a bit scary. So like these days, like this year, when you use Claude code, you can produce patches that are directly accepted. It works out of the box, and that's great for productivity because it means that we can design, architect, and spend less time tapping on the keyboard. For me, for example, AI is a great helper when I write tests or when I change something. For example, if I want to change a function in a class or add a new function, I can paste that class alongside the test and tell the program, well, just change the test, make all the coverage, and then I can verify this. And this works well. And it's really a game changer in terms of productivity. That's quite amazing. But on the other hand, the problem is like all the people that are like, if you're not, if you don't plug your brain, you can do pretty bad things with AI. Like some people, they don't think anymore. They just throw something to do at the LLM, and then if it doesn't work as they want, they go into a cycle of trying to tweak their prompt and fix it, and they can spend hours banging their head on the wall to try to fix something that the LLM did that didn't work. And I'm doing a little bit of interviews for like junior engineers, and like simple stuff like open a file, read the data. Now, like most of them, they want to throw that at ChatGPT or something, and they're not even able to like think about the problem. Like, and this is the scary part. Having a new generation of developers that unplug their brains and make the assumption that everything is done by the LLM. That's not working. So yeah, it's a little bit scary. Yeah.
Yeah, will be interesting to see how this evolves, right? So what kind of impact? There's the industry is trying to sell a little bit of the vibe coding thing, and we know it's like you well described that AI is being an accelerator in many aspects for people that know what the heck they're doing, but
Yes.
for others that don't, they are just creating problems and spending time consuming tokens, spending money, and not getting anywhere. So that's a little bit of what I see happening as well. But
Yes.
I'm hopeful that as things mature a little bit more, that people are going to really understand what are the benefits and what to avoid as well, right? So
Yes.
going back to Python, you wrote a couple of applications that's fantastic, and I was hoping you could tell us about Flake 8 and Perf 8 and what do they do, and how did you come up about doing those? What kind of problems they solve, and what's the impact that those have had in the Python community as well?
Yeah. So Flake 8, like back when I was working at one of the French company, we were linting our code, and we had all those tools: PyLint, Pep8, PyFlakes, and some others. And we had those makefiles with all those tools called with a bunch of different options. And I got annoyed because I was like, well, it's the same stuff. We just want to have a tool that links your stuff. I don't care about the details. I don't want to tweak 1,000 parameters. I just want the thing to lint my code and be done with it. Like when you have Go format, for example, when you do Go, you just, it's doing things for you. You don't care. So I created Flake 8, which is a contraction of PyFlakes and Pep8, the name, to have a single command line that would drive all of them. And this is how the project was born. And some other people found the idea good, so they eventually contributed to the project. And I stopped contributing quite early because I mean it was working for me. But then some people picked it, and they managed, like they continued to update it and whatnot, and it became a standard tool in the community to do that, because yeah, it's simpler to run one tool than 10 tools. But now I think it's not it's not a tool we should use anymore, because you have Rough, which is the same tool but in Rust, and it's like 100 times faster. So people should use Rust.
What about Perf 8?
Perfect. Well, perfect. I don't remember this one.
That was the performance management, right? So I think that's the one that monitors. You have multiple processes and kind of looks into how processes are running. You wrote Perf 8, right?
Yeah, but it didn't strike me as important. So I'm trying to remember what I did there. Oh yeah, I even did some talk about this performance metric for Python. Oh, that was when I was in Elastic. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember now. We had the same problem at Elastic. We used a bunch of different tools to do performance testing. So we use memory, PySpice, Speedscope, and we generated the performance report using gprof2dot and stuff like that. So Perfect was the exact same idea than PayPay, but for performance tooling. But I don't think that got really picked by the community. That was mostly at Elastic. I don't know if
Interesting.
I'm
Interesting.
not sure if people still use it or not. That's a good question.
It looked like very interesting when I took a look at that. So look into performance for different processes and a few other things as well.
Yeah, it's performance has been a central stuff for me for years. I was part of the performance team at Mozilla as well, and it was very relevant in the work we did at Elastic. We wanted to make sure that things stayed under control when we were injecting data into Elastic from different enterprise systems and stuff like that.
So talking about your contributions to the community and to people in general, you wrote several books, right? So several books, advanced books about Python. What motivated you to create those books, and how was the experience of creating those books for you?
So why is what I said at the beginning of our discussion. For me to learn, I wanted to learn Python when I started Python. And for me, the best way to learn Python was to be able to teach it to others. So this is how I wrote my first book. And it got very successful because it was one of the first books written in French. So, and it took 9 months, like a baby. And it was extremely hard work for me, the first book. It was very, very hard because it was back then I had a small kid. I had a lot going on at work, and I was spending a lot of time on that book. But since I worked for a company in Paris, and I was going there, commuting twice a week by train, I always took this train ride as the place to write the book because I was alone. No one would bother me. So I had it was pretty long. It was 1 hour and 40 minutes to go, 1 hour and 40 minutes to come back. So I took this 3 hours to work on my book twice a week, and that took 9 months.
So it's not easy to write a book, right? So, it's fantastic that this has had an impact and has helped so many people learn more about Python. So thank you for doing that.
Thanks.
What crosses your mind when you think about you described to me like at the beginning here of your learning path, you're typing programs in BASIC from magazines. And then you fast forward today you're working for Mozilla, you're working on an AI functionality to enhance the browser. And what crosses your mind when you think about your days when you're typing code from a magazine to a computer, and then you fast forward to today, work with AI, and you see all the evolution that you have seen through your career?
I think I was in the golden generation for programming. Because I started to work as a professional coder in 98 or 99. And that generation, we've seen everything. We were the first to build websites. I still have friends that are looking for their hard drive with Bitcoins that is somewhere in their cellar. And now we're going through this AI wave. I went through the browsers wars. If you look at the story of modern programming from 98 to now, that generation of developers, we were like the first day I worked at Mozilla, the first day I went to the office there, I was in the office where Netscape was back in the old days, and I sat there, and the guy on my right was the creator of JavaScript, and the guy on my left was the creator of what's the name of the JavaScript framework, jQuery. I was there in that room with those guys, all the same generation of people that built the modern web and the modern stuff. So yeah, that's what crosses my mind. I was lucky to be in the generation that went through all of this, I guess.
That's absolutely incredible, right? Did you ever use a Mosaic? Do you remember the first browser?
Yeah. Yes, the suit. Yeah, because the first Red Hat distribution I had, you could have that. So I used that, like the very first Linux distribution we were trying.
Yeah, I used Mosaic and Netscape, and Microsoft was pretty late to the internet thing with the browser, right? So it's kind of interesting, the whole story. Yeah. But anyway, just looking back in time, like we're looking back through time here, and think about your career, think about your education, everything else. Would you have done anything different if you had the chance of going back and changing anything?
No, I don't think so. And I don't know, like maybe I can pick something like, oh yeah, I should have done that differently, but I don't know what would have happened. I think I'm pretty happy with everything I went through so far. So yeah, I would say no.
Not even bring French cheese and French wine to Canada?
Well, okay. When Bitcoin started, I had some Bitcoins. And I think after some time, I was like, oh, that's crazy. I should, and I think I dumped them. That I would change because I would be rich.
I remember back in 2013, I worked with a colleague who came to me and he said, I'm going to buy some Bitcoin. And I think that he told me it was going to be like $500 each.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to put $500 on this, and I'm not going to do that. So anyway, we're in the same boat.
Yeah. That's yeah. And I know a guy who's millionaire because he had he went crazy into that. So yeah, oh well. But I'm okay. It's okay not to be rich, so no problem.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, absolutely. We're reaching in some other ways as well. Yeah. But and talk about being reaching some other ways as well. What do you think you'd be working at today if you had not pursued the career that you did?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know how to do anything else. I'm not sure. Because like I was so passionate about this, maybe I would I don't know, work at McDonald's and just go back home and program on open source projects or something. But it's hard for me to project myself into some other work. Well, actually, I love running and biking. One of my dreams was to become a professional athlete. Obviously, it's too late now, but maybe trying to do that. Because I started to do sports very late in my life, and I was pretty good at it. So maybe I had a shot at that if I started that in my 20s or something. I don't know.
So I think you just answered the next question I was going to ask is what do you do when you're not in front of a computer? I think you do biking, you do running.
Yes. The other way around. So, in Canada, what they say, because like in BC, a lot of people love to do sports. So they say, when you're young, you run, and then you bike when your knee hurts, and then you do kayak or paddle, and then you die. So I started to run, and then my knee started to hurt a little bit because I was doing so much running. So now I'm doing some biking. I won't do kayaking because it's not something in France. I might do pétanque, but yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, lots of running and biking, and because the area is beautiful for this.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and there's so many great places both in Canada and France to bike and to enjoy nature and beautiful things and beautiful scenery. So. Like I was mentioning to you, the programmers community that we have, that we created now in Brazil, there's a lot of people trying to get into technology and trying to understand if programming is for them, and they have lots of questions about education. They have lots of questions about which programming language they take and which one they don't, and try to learn 10 programming languages at the same time. We tell them, don't do that.
Yeah.
And there's lots of questions, right? So what kind of advice do you have for people who are trying to get into technology right now and trying to decide which path to take?
Right. So it's interesting because at some point I was a teacher in my old school. Sometimes they take like people 10 years after they left school to do some teaching classes, and I was saying two kind of people in the classroom. People that were like me, passionate about programming, and you could tell, like if they had a bug, they were trying to fix it.
Yep.
Even if the bell rang, they were still trying to fix it. And you had other people that they didn't really know if this was something for them. And I guess my first advice is, if you find coding boring, like this is not for you. If you're not passionate about coding, this is not for you, because it can be extremely terrible and annoying, and terrible if you're not passionate about that. So that would be my first advice. Make sure you're passionate about it, because it can be terrible anyway if you don't. I've seen some people quitting after a few years because of that. And the second advice is, if you're a young person that wants to get started into programming, you should try to get involved into an open source project that's out there and contribute stuff. This is such a great way to learn, because if you pop up in a community and say to people, well, I want to contribute, they always welcome contributor. You can start by contributing documentation or small bug fixes and stuff like that. You will always have senior people helping you, and it's a great way to learn how a real world application works. And there are like major projects that accept a contributor, like Firefox, for example. Anyone can contribute, and it's a massive project. And a lot of people that are working at Mozilla now used to be simple contributors in the community, and they started to contribute more and more, and eventually they get hired. And yeah, I think that's a good way to learn, because I've seen a lot of people when I was doing interview that came out of like engineer school, that did 5-6 years, and they didn't know how to make a program work. They knew a lot about math, they knew a lot about all the theory, but their stuff wouldn't work. And these days, I think it's more important for people to learn how to make things work, and being pragmatic and practical, you know. So
yeah. And it's incredible, the opportunity open source gives to people. Like you said, they can get involved and they can help in any capacity they have. And as they gain experience, they can, contribute to perhaps some coding and some other more complicated activities. And eventually that may open doors, that may open opportunities for them work-wise, just like it did for you, right? So I think you're an example what that can do to people. So, that's really good. Do you have any suggestions, or perhaps you can mention your books as well, but anything about music, books, movies, or games, or perhaps wine and cheese as well from France that you can recommend and you'd like to share with the community in terms of recommendations?
well, I mean, for wine and cheese, okay, so well, you have to be here to try the wines I like, so it's hard to give a recommendation there. But I have one recommendation that's easy for anyone anywhere in the world to do. It's to cook bœuf bourguignon, Burgundy beef. It's cooked with wine. But the good news is that if you're vegetarian, you can do it with tofu. It works as well. So the idea is that you marinate your meat or your tofu with red wine, and it can be an average red wine. It doesn't have to be a good wine. And you slow cook it for 5 to 7 hours, and everything gets like super nice and filled with the flavor of the wine, and the alcohol goes away after 5-6 hours of cooking. So even if you don't drink alcohol, it works. And yeah, my recommendation is to try this recipe, Boeuf Bourguignon.
That's a fantastic recommendation. I have had that. I totally recommend as well.
Yeah, and you have a Belgium version, Carbonate Flamande. They do the same with chicken or any kind of meat, but instead of red wine, they put brown beer, and it gets caramelized, and it's so good. And you in BC, you have the best beer in the world, so you can do that with a good brown beer.
Yeah, there's a lot of good beer over here for sure. And Tarek, are there any questions that you wish I had asked that I did not ask today?
Well, you did ask a lot of questions, and that was pretty intense. So on the top of my mind, I can't think of a particular question.
That's good to know. Good to know. And is there anything you'd like to share in terms of a website or LinkedIn or anything that, or mention your books or anything that people can use to contact you?
So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So if you type my name, you can find me. I've recently updated my blog. So there is blog.ziad.org, where like I used to have this blog with almost 400 blog posts. I removed everything and I started from scratch. And there are a couple of articles there. And yeah, so if someone is interested into a topic about what we do, they can ping me, and I'd love to write about it. So
that's fantastic. And for me, I'll have I'm learning French using Duolingo every day.
Okay.
So maybe one thing I'd like to do is do this interview again in French, maybe in a few years when I can control French better. Because I have, like I mentioned, I can say the "de croissant avec fromage, s'il vous plaît." So I have to improve. But my favorite phrase in French right now is "Le mari de ma femme est très joli." My wife doesn't like that phrase too much. She just laughs when I say that. But I just want to say it's been a privilege speaking to you. Thank you so much again for taking time. Merci beaucoup.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. It was very nice, and I feel humbled. Like I feel like a star, being asked all those questions about my life. So I hope it's useful for young people that want to do programming.
Absolutely. I think that'll be, like I said, you're going to inspire a lot of people like you have inspired for your career as well. So thank again for your contributions to open source and to helping others with sharing your knowledge. Thank you so much for your time. Just, I'm going to stop recording. I just spend 2 minutes with me. Give me 1 second here to push the button to stop. If I can find a proper button here, that'd be fantastic.